Finally, we're going to be determining and showing how you divide polynomials together. We've added and subtracted and multiplied polynomials so far over the past several sessions. Now we're going to get into dividing them. And here's a polynomial. Your first term, 4x squared plus 7x plus 3, is now being divided by your second polynomial, x plus 1. And it is good to go ahead and set this up like a normal long division problem that you're very used to, I'm sure, over the past many years in math. That is the system that we want to use here when we divide the polynomials. Okay, we've got it lined up here. What you want to do, each one of our terms, each one of our polynomials is written with the biggest degree term to the left and then working toward the smallest to the right. Same here, your biggest degree toward the left and then working toward the smaller one or smallest one to the right. In x plus 1, we have two terms. Here we have x to the first, which is the same thing as x. And here we have x to the 0, which is the same thing as 1. 1 times 1 being 1. So here are our first degree term and our 0 degree term here. And in our number that's being divided, we have our second degree first, our first degree second, and our 0 degree third. So it's written in order from left to right, from your biggest degree to the smallest. Once you've done that, we can now go ahead and divide. Now, to stop some confusion from the beginning, what you want to do is when you are taking a look at your divisor here, and remember your divisor is the thing that you're dividing by. What you want to do is take a look at the term that has the biggest degree first and sort of ignore the other terms to the right of it. Which of these two has the biggest degree? Well, the x does, which is the first degree. So then what you do is you ask yourself, okay, my x over here, this is the term that has the biggest degree of 1. And we ask ourselves, how many times will x go into my biggest degreed term over here? Well, my biggest degreed term is x squared. So then, how many times will x go into 4x squared? Another way of asking yourself, is it x times what is 4x squared? Well, x times 4x is 4x squared. So let's go 4x times our x plus the 1. And remember, you have to do each of these one by one. 4x times x is 4x squared. And then 4x times a positive 1 is plus 4x. So we have now taken the first portion of our solution, our answer, our quotient, and we've taken the 4x part and we've multiplied it by our divisor. 4x times x and then 4x times the 1. Next, we subtract. 7x minus a 4x is a 3x. 4x squared minus 4x squared is just 0, or 0x squared, and I'll just erase that and we'll leave it alone. There's nothing there. 0 is the same thing as nothing. At this point, we have now done our first part, our multiplication. We've then performed our subtraction, and what we're left with is 3x. The next thing we now do is we go and bring down our next term. Our next term is a plus 3. So what we now have is 3x plus 3. We go right back to our divisor again. We take our variable that has the greatest power, here it's x, and we ask ourselves, how many times will this x go into the term that has the greatest power or the greatest degree down here? Well, that's our 3x. How many times will x go in the 3x? It'll go in 3 times, a plus 3 times. So we come up here and write plus 3. At this point, we now perform our multiplication. 3 times x is 3x. We now take our 3 times our 1, which is a plus 3. And then we subtract. 3x minus 3x is 0, and 3 minus 3 is 0. That is the answer to our question. That's our quotient there. 4x squared plus 7x plus 3 divided by x plus 1 equals 4x plus 3. And you could actually go around or turn around and check your answer. And remember to check a division, a quotient. You want to take your answer, which is 4x plus 3, and then what you want to do is you want to multiply that by your divisor, which is x plus 1. Erase that there. And check to see if your answer is correct. 1 times 3 is 3, a positive 3. 1 times 4x is 4x. That takes care of our first row. We can either leave this blank, or if it helps you to add to 0, you can do that. X times 3 is 3x. And remember, we want to line up our like terms, one on top of the other. X times 4x is 4x squared. That was a positive 3x. Then we add it together. 4x squared plus nothing is 4x squared. 4x plus 3x is 7x. And then our 3 plus 0 is 3. And as you can see, that matches what we started with. Okay, on our next screen here, we're going to take a look at one more problem, and that'll be it for this lesson. Here we have two terms in each polynomial. We have x to the third minus 27, and then we're taking that and dividing it by x minus 3. Well, when you divide polynomials, it's very important, at least to keep things visually straight and to keep things lined up. We're going to go ahead and rewrite this as a normal division problem. We're going to have the x minus 3 over here in our divisor. Then we're going to have our division symbol here. And then we're going to start with our highest degreed monomial here, x to the third. But the next thing that we see here is a minus 27. But we're missing an x squared and an x to the first. Go ahead and add that in. How many x squareds do we have? Well, we have 0x squared. Well, by adding 0x squared, have we changed the value at all? No, because anything times 0 is 0. And when you add 0 to anything, you haven't changed the value of it. So we can go ahead and add a 0x squared. Do we have an x to the first term up here? No, we don't. So let's go ahead and add a 0 x to the first, which is the same thing as 0x. And then our last term here is a minus 27. So we have rewritten this division problem now as x to the third plus 0x squared plus 0x minus 27 divided by x minus 3. And now we go ahead and perform the division just like we did on the previous screen. Once again, you write down your dividend and your divisor from the biggest degree to the smallest left to right. Once that's done, which is what we've done, here's our 3, 2, 1, and 0 terms, 0 degrees, and here's our 1 degree, 0 degree term. So we have written them in order from largest to smallest by degree. Now let's take a look at our highest degree term here in our divisor. It's x to the first. So we're going to take a look at that and ask ourselves, how many times will that go into our biggest degree term over here, which is x to the third? X times what equals x to the third? Well, that's going to be x to the second. At this point, now we need to take this portion of our quotient, our answer, and multiply it by our divisor, each of the terms in our divisor. X squared times x is x to the third. We now need to take the x squared times a minus 3, which is going to give us a minus 3x squared. So all of our multiplication now with our divisor is finished with our x squared term. Now we have to come down and take our first term, our first polynomial, and subtract our second one from it. What is x to the third minus x to the third? Well, it's 0. Our second term, however, is going to be 0x squared on the top. What is 0x squared minus a minus 3x squared? Well, minus a minus makes it a positive, so a 0x squared minus a minus 3x squared is going to be a 3x squared. At this point, we now bring down our next term, which is 0x. We come back to our divisor, We go to our biggest degreed term, which is x, and ask ourselves how many times will this x go into our biggest degreed term down here, which is 3x squared. In other words, x times what is 3x squared? Well, x times 3x is 3x squared. So we're going to write that 3x up here like that. Now we're going to take this 3x and multiply it by each of the components, each of the terms of our divisor here. What is 3x times x? Well, 3x times x is 3x squared. What is 3x times a minus 3? Well, that would be minus 9x. Now we take these and subtract. 3x squared minus 3x squared is 0, and 0x minus a minus 9x is a plus 9x, or a positive 9x. With this done, we now bring down our last term, which is 27. We come back to our divisor, take a look at our x, which is our biggest degreed term. How many times will x go into our biggest degreed term down here, which is 9x? X times what is 9x? X times 9, a positive 9 is 9x. So we're going to add that to it. Take our 9 times each of the terms in our divisor. 9 times x is 9x. And then we go and we take 9 times a negative 3. That's a minus 27. And subtract. 9x minus 9x is 0. Minus 27 minus a minus 27 is a 0 as well. Because a minus of a minus becomes a positive, and that positive 27 negates that negative 27. They cancel each other out, and there's nothing left over. So we can see that the answer to this particular division problem of polynomials is x squared plus 3x plus 9. And once again, when you're dividing polynomials, make sure that the dividend, which is the number that's being divided, has a term for each degree between the largest and smallest degrees within the problem. This will help you keep things straight when performing the division. That'll finish up session 63 on dividing polynomials.